Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking something absolutely crucial. It is literally our first line of defense out in the field, the low voltage permit to work, or as we all call it, the LVPTW. We're going to cover exactly what it's used for, the essential precautionary measures, and the organizational rules tied to it. We've designed this to be a straightforward, accessible guide for our junior colleagues just starting out, while also serving as a rock-solid reference for our supervising engineers. And before we get into the weeds, we want to take a special moment to express our sincere gratitude to Supervisor Ali Al-Jadala for his dedication to teaching these very concepts, and we ask for prayers of mercy and forgiveness for his parents. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the threat and the shield, move into roles and responsibilities, then forging the shield with LOTO and earthing. After that, we'll cover reinforcing the shield with secondary permits and wrap up with a legacy of protection.
Starting with Section 1, the threat and the shield. Because to protect ourselves, we really need to respect the stakes involved.
So, the million-dollar question. How do we safely tame the invisible, lethal energy of low-voltage systems? I mean, electricity is basically an invisible monster, right? You can't see it, you usually can't hear it, so we absolutely have to lock it in a cage before any work begins. And that cage, that is the LVPTW. Now, you might be tempted to think of this as just another piece of routine paperwork, but actually, scratch that. It is a contract of life. It's totally mandatory for all work, whether it's planned or unplanned. It officially authorizes you to work on equipment only after it is completely de-energized, isolated, locked out, and fully earthed. Moving right along to Section 2, roles and responsibilities. This is all about the guardians of the worksite. And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic between the two most important people on the job. On one side, you have the issuer, or the source. They're the ones identifying hazards, doing the actual isolation and earthing, and issuing the permit. On the flip side, you have the receiver, the executor. They take the permit, brief the team, make sure the work happens safely, and clear everyone out before canceling it. Both must be fully authorized. Both have to sign face-to-face on site. And the receiver actually has to independently verify that isolation. Which brings us to the golden rule of safety. For our junior technicians tuning in, listen up, because there are zero exceptions here. No person is permitted to work unless they are trained, authorized, and, most importantly, all power sources are isolated, locked, earthed, and tested. That is the absolute non-negotiable baseline.
All right, Section 3, forging the shield. This is the technical core where we talk about lockout/tagout, or LOTO, and earthing procedures.
So, how do we actually create this safe zone? It's a highly procedural, four-step dance. First, you isolate and remove fuses or links. Second, turn those breakers firmly to the off position. Third, apply your LOTO system. And fourth, test for dead and apply a circuit main earth or portable earthing. Think of these actions as physical locks that completely protect your team from any accidental backfeeding. Now let's talk about the color codes for those locks, because it's not random. The red lock is strictly for the issuer, the yellow lock is for the receiver, and the blue lock, that's used by the competent person. It's an incredibly quick visual reference for any supervising engineer. Oh, and those hold tags? Mandatory. They tell everyone exactly who isolated the system and why, which guarantees nobody messes with the setup. But hey, electrical isolation is only half the battle. Proper PPE and fall protection equipment are totally non-negotiable. According to OSHA guidelines, once the power is cut, your physical gear is the absolute final barrier protecting your body from harm. And check out this number, 3.05. To put that into perspective, 3.05 meters is the minimum safe approach distance for any unqualified personnel when dealing with moving electrical objects. For fixed objects, it's 1.07 meters. Sticking to these distances keeps everyone safely outside the danger zone. That leads us nicely into Section 4, reinforcing the shield with secondary permits, because primary permits often need a little backup. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly these secondary permits map to specific blind spots on a complex site. Doing ground digging, you need an XC, or excavation permit. Working up high on scaffolding, that requires a WAH, working at height permit. Using cranes, grab an LOP, or lifting operating permit. But here is the kicker. A secondary permit cannot exist on its own. It is strictly dependent on your primary LVPTW. They are tied at the hip, meaning the secondary permit opens and closes in exact synchronization with your main safety document. Just to give you the whole shebang, there are a couple of other primary documents you should know. The SFT, or Sanction for Test, is what you use when an earth needs to be temporarily removed for resistance testing. Then there's the LOA, Limitation of Access, used to enforce those safe approach distances near live equipment when you can't actually switch things off. Both require the exact same rigorous hazard assessment.
Finally, Section 5, a legacy of protection. This is where we step back from the paperwork and look at the human element of safety.
Behind every single rule and permit, there are people looking out for your life. As we touched on at the beginning, we want to express our sincere appreciation to Supervisor Ali El-Jada for his incredible dedication to teaching these safety principles. We ask for prayers of mercy and forgiveness for his parents. It's a powerful reminder that all these technical procedures are grounded in human empathy, in honoring those who lead by example, and making sure we all go home to our families.
Which brings us to our final thought. The permit protects you on paper, sure, but your personal commitment is what actually protects your life. The LVPTW, the LOTO, the secondary permits, they only work if you actively champion them. So are you ready to work safely and commit to zero harm today? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and stay safe out there.